Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm here to talk to you about Vedic astrology, how it affects you and the life around you and the world around you. I've been practicing Vedic astrology for 30 years, 30 plus years, and I'm also involved in Saptarishi astrology. I'm working with them out of India. And also, if you would like to submit articles to Saptarishi astrology, please let me know. I would be happy to talk with you. If you wish to contact me directly for either readings or lessons, please contact me at 508 525 0001. Again, the number is 508 525 0001. Or you can email me at neivas@comcast.net or at garygomesg@gmail.com. That's neivas@comcast.net or garygomesg@gmail.com. Uh, as you can probably tell, or you may not be able to tell, it's actually dark outside. It's around 9 o'clock at night when I'm starting this recording. So it's a little bit of a different schedule than I normally take. But we'll put up the chart and see what's happening, first of all, around the world, then with your charts, and then see if we can localize what's happening astrologically in different locations around the world. And also, um, if you're interested in Vedic astrology readings, there's also a school of remedies, which I will start discussing fairly soon, called upayas, which are designed for individuals who have problems in their charts. These can be very simple rituals. They can cost, some of these can cost a lot of money. I wouldn't necessarily recommend you go in that particular direction. Some of them are actions or measures you can take yourselves, and some of them are I'll actually be putting online over the next few months. Also, I would ask you to keep your eyes peeled for a video I'm going to put up with Jean Karazian from Lebanon over the next few weeks regarding the use of Vargas in world leaders charts. Vargas are divisional or subcharts that are derived from the main birth chart. They're really interesting. Vedic astrology has a lot of depth in it, and you can actually find certain events that are going to happen or certain predispositions that can be avoided if you look at a Varga chart for certain specific areas of life, like marriage or career or family members or children. There are a variety of Varga charts, and they all hone in on special things. So the only problem with Varga charts is you have to be really, really sure of the birth time, because the more fine the Varga chart is calculated, the more accurate the birth data has to be. So that's the only caution you have with Vargas charts. So the birth data has to be really, really accurate. But it is useful, and also even looking at, and this sets me aside from a lot of astrologers who work in this field, even setting aside the fact that you may not get the rising sign correct. Some of the slower moving planets, like let's say even down to the moon, you can actually get fairly accurate sign placements from Varga charts. So again, those are useful information. They're not quite as accurate as we would like, but that is useful information in chart. So let's go on to the birth chart or the chart of the moon we're speaking. And this is actually kind of an interesting chart. I'm going to pull it down again because experience has taught me that Zoom sometimes has trouble with these showing these charts properly. So I do it 3 times for good luck. And that way we can make sure that we have the birth information for you folks. Okay, so we're going to do a new share. Hold on a second. So we're going to stop the share. And for one last time, I'm going to put the chart up. And like I said, this is just me being a little bit overly cautious because I have had to redo charts because these charts weren't, Zoom wasn't acting properly, or wasn't, I won't say it wasn't acting properly, maybe my bandwidth was a little bit off. But also, we will be going to higher quality productions soon, I promise you. I've just had a lot of other things on my plate, and I apologize to you that we haven't done it earlier, but we're going to get really flashy probably in a couple of months. All right, so the first thing we can see about this chart is everybody's a little anxious, a little worried, a little depressed right now. And as a matter of fact, over the past week, there were a lot of upsets or setbacks or disappointments, let's say, because the moon was with Ketu, particularly in terms of justice or law. Okay, so I think one of the reasons I'm saying that is because Libra is a sign which is connected with markets, but it's also connected with law, and also we experienced a lot of shocks to markets. We saw a lot of the bank issues come up again over the past week, and that was explicitly because of this K2 placement in Libra. You're seeing a lot of people getting a little bit anxious with this moon in Scorpio. Now, so the moon tends to be a little bit down, and the moon was just at its lowest point in Scorpio just a few hours ago. So whenever this happens, people tend to go through this really upsetting time, this moon K2 conjunction, and then they hit sort of like a little bit of a downslide. Their optimism's gone. It'll start to snap back by tomorrow. I'm doing this on a Saturday night, and the major thing we can see as being problems. So I end up just taking it on faith that I do these readings when I need to, and I've been allowed to do the reading when we've been focused on short-term struggles with government, government opposition, and also the government opposing you. This is true, again, like I said, not only in the United States, but around the world. There's been strife again between the government and the larger population or larger segments of the population. I won't say the entire population, but large segments of the population. And this Jupiter, and I'll be really happy in about 9 days when both the sun goes into Taurus and Mercury turns to right, because what's happened is we've seen what I would call, I think we saw an improvement in communication in media, but a lot of scandals connected with it just about 2 weeks ago. And you saw a lot of media headlines about people losing their jobs, and it isn't just the big news items. A lot of people in news media have been losing their jobs. It isn't just the Tucker Carlson story or the Don Lemon story, or those people. A lot of people have been being fired in media, and I think one of the things we're also seeing is, as I said before, the government kind of clamping down on certain groups. Whether or not you think that's justified or not, that's what's been happening. Some of you, I'm sure, are happy it's happening. Some of you, I'm sure, are not happy it's happening. But that clampdown is inevitable when we have this Saturn aspect on the sun, and also this Rahu and Mercury aspect. Now, keep in mind, Mercury Rahu aspects tend to be kind of sensationalistic. Um, that's so I don't want to spend too much time on communication, but also Mercury's a planet connected with work. Okay, so people are getting a little bit anxious about their jobs, a little bit anxious about financial security, and even a little bit anxious about things like artificial intelligence. That's come up as a big issue over the past month or so. And the Rahu Mercury conjunction it's no accident that it's come up during this particular time frame. The other thing is, and I pointed this out, I think earlier, every single planet on this chart is connected with every other single planet. So Saturn's in Aquarius. So Saturn's in the sign connected with new technology. So it'll make certain dreams and nightmares or disappointments. We won't call them nightmares, but it's a little bit melodramatic. I'm falling into this trap myself. But Saturn's aspecting Jupiter, it'll give sort of like a harsher system of justice. We've heard the vice president was just named the artificial intelligence czar this past week, and that's and the Mercury retrograde. So this is sort of like a reboot for her, for lack of a better term. And also, you've had a lot of controversy, some controversy around that, and around some of the steps that both parties have been taking. I think I spoke about the artificial intelligence political ad that the Republican Party put out, but we're going to be seeing a lot of that over the next few months. And a lot of the controversy around AI will tend to normalize a little bit when Mercury goes into Taurus around the end of the month. But the other thing is we have Saturn's aspecting Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is in Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. And Venus is ruled by Venus rules this house right here, this sign right here, but it also rules Ketu. So all the financial planets, all the planets connected with access and oil, and all the planets connected with lying and confusion of information are sort of all working together, okay, right now. So that's why we're not getting a lot of clarity of discussion. That's why we're getting a lot of scandals in the United States. There have been a lot of scandals around judges, so the Supreme Court in particular. I think you're going to see a lot more of that over the next 9 months. And just to beat an old drum that I've been beating for a while, you're going to see scandals coming up about people engaging in contacts with people they shouldn't be involved with. So scandals around educators, people in high finance. There have been quite a few reports about people like people in high positions, including academics like Noam Chomsky, being associated with Jeffrey Epstein. And it's just interesting because nobody seems to be, or hardly anybody in a position of high authority seems to have not had some contact with this guy, who by all accounts was very sleazy. So this sort of like stains a lot of the elites in the country. And this is also true in other parts of the world. You know, it's true. It's been true in Europe. You know, so France has been trying to make deals with China. Argentina has been making deals with China. you have a lot of confusion about um, political messaging. So there was just a recent series of um, encounters that Roger Waters from Pink Floyd had with with the German government. You know, on the in the in the grand scheme of things, these aren't big issues. But these are essentially um, indicative of the kinds of controls that are and confusion that are becoming commonplace, relatively commonplace. It'll get a little bit more intense before the 16th. Around the 16th, a lot of it will become clearer. A lot of what's happening will become clearer and more rational, but there'll still be a lot of panic. And and again, I don't think I have to mention the CNN town hall that they agreed to do for Donald Trump. Um, they were just, um, it was like a large scale condemnation. I don't want to say large scale. But there were certain prominent media voices who were concerned about that, but they were giving Donald Trump a forum. But I think one of the things that we're sort of like losing sight of is there are much more important issues happening in the world. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter right now and Mercury, so it's affecting commerce. It's affecting the moon right now, which is why I'm more pessimistic than normal in this particular broadcast. The good thing, though, is that this latest eclipse, which happened on Friday, just yesterday, has cleared away some stuff that you don't need. But I think you will experience some communication problems, especially with the Mercury retrograde and the Rahu conjunction over the next couple of weeks. That won't be resolved really for about 2 weeks, unfortunately. So I think if you're expecting anything to get done and finalized within the next couple of weeks or anything to go according to plan, that's not going to happen. I think now again, usually when you see combinations like this, usually you'll get these really good deals too. I mean, that's kind of an unknown premise of Mercury being retrograde. So you get Vargas, so people will, but they won't be, they'll be prop. Yeah. All right. So a lot of these things, so I just got an interruption on the phone. That's pretty common. But I think when you're looking at this, yeah, you'll see a lot of people are having, and I'm going to pull this down just to make sure it goes up again. So a lot of people are going to be a little bit angry. A lot of people are going to be a little bit perturbed. The Mars-Venus conjunction, there'll be fights in relationships. And that doesn't just mean marital relationships. It means essentially what I would call standard relationships. So it's just like business relationships. People will be a little bit more un um, passionate about what they believe than usual. Also, the Mars Venus conjunction is kind of interesting because it creates a lot of relationship interests or sexual interests. So it's, so again, like I said, just individually, I just received a book from a Vedic astrologer who you'll also see me talking to, which is about kama or passion in the chart. So these things aren't coincidental. These are sort of like what happen in the world around us. It'll be particularly true of people with Gemini rising and Sagittarius rising, or Sagittarius or Gemini suns. That'll be a strong part of their nature during this particular time. So let's go on to the individual signs. But again, just expect a lot of this is a time of a lot of vendettas being followed through on, and I would even call them court vendettas or lesson giving, or what I would call people saying, "Well, you did this, so I'm going to do this," and that will continue for about another couple of weeks, unfortunately, or about another 9 to 10 days, and then it'll stop. But the things that have been done during this period will not be undone. They will be mitigated, though. Okay, they'll be lessened. So let's look at the chart for everybody, for individual signs. And from this particular chart, we have for Aries, we have that exalted sun in the first house. It's still in its exalted sign, which is good for the sun, but also a little bit tough because it's being hemmed in by Rahu, right? Not really hemmed in, but it's being affected by Rahu. And it's also being affected by Jupiter. So there's this, what I would call really establishment overreach, right? Well, happening right about now. So that means a lot more attention to conformity and also stronger resistance to conformity on the other side. The resistance to conformity is, so the government's had its, or the authority figures have had their say, but over the next couple of weeks, we'll see increasing unhappiness with luck, increasing unhappiness with losses because of Rahu affecting the 12th house lord of Jupiter for this particular sign. Mars and Venus, this sign will be very passionate about what it wants. It'll be very aggressive about what it wants. K2's in the 7th house. Relationship partners will be a little bit difficult to talk with and will be pessimistic. And finally, Saturn in the 11th house. Gains will be slow and a little sluggish, but they will be there. For Taurus has the moon in the 7th house, so this gives some problems with relationship partners or some unhappiness with relationship partners. And whenever you have a combination like this, there'll be fights or arguments with relationship partners, but they'll be quick to make up as well. And K2's in the 6th, so again, watch out for health issues. Saturn's in the 10th, so career life actually looks good, but expenses are very high for Taurus natives still. And that'll continue really until around May 16th when the sun enters the sign. Home expenses in particular will be very high. For Gemini has Mars and Venus in the 1st house, so they'll have a lot of disruption in their lives, a lot of betrayals of friendships. That Jupiter, Mercury, Sun, Rahu combination is really nasty. It causes a lot of anger or difficulty with friends. And I think that K2 in the 5th house, people will feel kind of alone or betrayed, but they'll have really good intuition about what's going on around them. They'll have, and like I said, kind of unexpected feelings for other people, and other people will have unexpected feelings for them. This is interesting because this is kind of a spiritual love placement more so than a romantic love placement for this particular sign. So it doesn't necessarily mean these people will necessarily have some kind of a sexual encounter, but the Venus-Mars conjunction can intensify their love for people who they view spiritually or who they view as guides. Moon is in the 6th house. So again, some anxiety, some worry uh, about finances, some depression about finances. All these things pass. I mean, one of the good things about knowing astrology is knowing that all these things pass. Some things like this feel very, very difficult. This conjunction feels extremely difficult because of the Saturn aspect on it. And so a lot of people with Aries and Libra and uh, just about every sign is experiencing this to some extent or another. And they're feeling very, very frustrated. But a lot of that is illusion, number one. And number two, a lot of it's what I would call um, casting your anxieties onto other people. And I think whenever you see a combination like this, you do have to watch out for people lying to you. And this is also true of Gemini in regards to friends and also friends trying to manipulate you. The seventh house Lord is in the 11th house, so there's going to be that kind of anxiety with relationship partners for this particular sign as well. Uh, that'll Unfortunately that'll last for a few months, but I think that relationship partners will seem a little bit um, difficult to communicate with or difficult to please, and they'll act more like friends, or they'll seem to betray you a little bit. So it's kind of a difficult combination, but you can actually learn a lot from this combination. You can actually um, make yourself more independent, especially after May 16th. From okay, so Saturn's in the ninth house, so slow knowledge, slow acquisition of knowledge, slow ability and control, ability to make things you want real. Okay, so that's good. Um, for And again, 11th house, good for financial gains. Just don't trust friends. Don't get too close to friends. For Cancer, Cancer has, this is, again, I'm going to fix it for the sidereal zodiac, July 15th to August 15th. Cancer has the moon in the fourth house, so people will feel a little bit distressed or a little bit upset emotionally tonight. It's not really a bad combination, but I think overall, people will worry about their home, worry about financial losses, worry about um, even imminent danger, the threats of danger. Um, K2's in the fourth house, so there's some fear about security at home again as well. So that's underscored in that combination. Saturn's in the eighth house. So usually when Saturn's in the eighth house, people have to reestablish themselves or reestablish their credibility. And Jupiter's in the 10th house, along with the Sun and Rahu and Mercury. So that actually should give some good career growth. So that's the positive part of this particular transit for Cancer. For Cancer, it's actually a good transit, but there'll be a strong desire to travel or to be somewhere else. For Leo, Leo has Saturn in the seventh house. So again, stability in relationships, stability in business partnerships. But I think one of the things you'll notice when you look at this particular sign is they'll feel a little bit insecure. They'll feel like there's a lot going on behind the scenes that they don't know about. And there is some problem with leadership. This sign is going to feel like it's not being paid attention to. And with this particular planet in the third house, with K2 in the third, again, business relationships, you should be cautious about business relationships. Moon is in the fourth house. Again, some worry about financial losses due to family members and due to home construction. And when we get down here to this Jupiter, Mercury, Rahu, Sun conjunction, it's actually good for growth, for career growth, but a little bit difficult. Bosses will be very difficult to please, very uh, unusually strict. Uh, the other thing is we have a Mars Venus conjunction in the 11th house. That's a good placement for this particular sign. It brings certain good qualities together. It's good for real estate, good for investments. But again, I caution people over the next month or so to be really wary of investments because of that Jupiter, Mercury, Rahu, Sun conjunction. For Virgo, this is September 15th to October 15th. We have the Lord of the first house in the eighth. So this sign will feel like it's a little bit trapped, frustrated, really can't see its way out, but it's good for inner examination. It's good for looking up obscure or esoteric subjects, good for studying things you want to know more about, good for contacts in foreign countries, unexpected gains or inheritances from this particular combination, some of which may not come to fruition, but they're still tantalizing. Cases in the second house, so again, some financial limitations, at least until November, unfortunately. But career-wise, this sign will actually do pretty well. Mars and Venus are conjunct in the 10th house, and that will offset this particular combination of the moon in the third house. It'll make your desires a little bit more diverse or flexible. So you'll be looking for one thing you need, disappointed about it, looking at another thing, and disappointed about it. But I think it's good because at least it makes the sign kind of dwell upon what it wants out of life as opposed to what it thinks it wants. And when I say that, it's more like it allows you to have some reflection about what your true desires are over the next week. In terms of practical matters, everything is favored which involves research. You won't have much of a chance to have fun because Saturn's aspecting that eighth house as well. So it's a pretty heavy work week. For a Libra, K2's in Libra in the first house. The Lord of the first is in the ninth, along with the Lord of the house of wealth and relationships, which is Mars for this chart. So this will bring unexpected relationships, unexpected relationship opportunities, and unexpected good feelings from people. It'll give sort of a sense that there'll be abundant relationship opportunities. It's going to be a little bit difficult for this sign over the next few months because there'll be people popping in and out of your life that will seem like they're good relationship partners, but I would wait at least until the fall before I did anything concrete with them, just because of that Rahu being in the seventh house. It can give contacts with people from other countries or from different backgrounds. Okay, so that's a positive thing about it, or from people who are very technical. But this moon in the second house to have a lot of career confusion, to have a lot of disappointment over what to do career. Again, they'll feel just a little bit caged in, not quite as caged in as Virgo does, but a little bit caged in and a little bit anxious. For Saturn in this particular house, again, that'll stop them from doing anything impulsive relationship-wise. And I think if you look at this particular chart, this is actually kind of a nice combination of yogas because it gives a house of gains. So money will come in. It affects a house of gains in a couple of ways. The second and 11th houses are strong, but the money tends to flow out pretty quickly as well. So that'll be true really until around June. From Scorpio, which is November 15th through December 15th. So Libra was October 15th through November 15th. For Scorpio, the ninth lord is in the first house, so that gives feeling of not having a lot of luck. Relationship life will seem to be a little bit passionate, a little more passionate than normal, although relationship partners will be more ready to fight. Saturn is in the fourth house, so there'll be a lot of responsibilities connected with home life. Jupiter's in the sixth house, so again, basically just when you thought things had calmed down in terms of home life and children and animals, you'll see some problems coming up with those, some repeating problems coming up with those parts of your life. And you have that Mars, Venus in the eighth house. So again, this, like Virgo, this sign will feel like it's a little bit trapped by circumstances. Again, this is time that can be used practicing, studying, learning, all those things. All eighth house matters, even investigating investments as that's really more alliterative than what I wanted. But investigating investments, that's a great time to do it. But not acting on it for another month or so. By the way, I don't think we're near economic collapse. I just wanted to interject that right now. We're going to see a lot of financial how you say breakups or deviations over the next few months. So you are definitely going to see more bank failures. You're going to see more people jockeying around the globe to find different investment strategies. You're going to see more investment in gold and more tangible assets. And one of the reasons I feel comfortable talking about that in Scorpio is because Scorpio will probably be involved in a lot of those things. A lot of Scorpios will be involved in like reshaping their finances. For Sagittarius, Lord of the first is in the fifth. So there's this feeling of like luck for this particular sign, but it's also kind of a dread that things are about to change or things are about to become locked down. And that's not necessarily true. And you'll see a lot of things that seem like they're being locked down or taken away, freed up in November or so. But basically, there's that desire for control that Saturn's aspect in Rahu, and Saturn's in the third house, so the sun would feel very confident about laying down the law or about trying to quell rebellious members of the family, or even, but on the positive side, a lot of knowledge. It'll get a lot of support from the government. It'll get a lot of support from people around it. But for Sagittarius, what I would make sure that you do is you make sure that what you're experiencing, that you can make it last, because after November, a lot of that will be snatched away. And I think that if you fall down on, it'll be very easy to go into dishonest activity over the next few months. Extremely easy. It'll also be extremely easy to get caught. Okay, so that's one of the things I'm just encouraging Sagittarians in particular to think about. Venus and Mars are in the seventh house. That's a good combination for passionate relations with the wife, also good for arguments. And finally, Ketu's in the 11th house. So again, like Gemini, but to a certain lesser extent, this sign should not trust its friends. Its friends will steal from it. Its friends will cause problems for it. And Sagittarians like people. This is a kind of a difficult period for them. They like people. But they're also sure they're right, and they're also sure that they have the answers. and this sign will essentially make them misjudge to a certain extent. This placement of K2 in Libra. Saturn's in the third house, so strong willpower for this sign this month as well. For Capricorn, Capricorn has Saturn in the second house. So again, it's going to be this feeling of wanting to make progress, but not quite enough. It's not necessarily a bad placement, but it is slower progress than you like. And again, we're going to see inflationary pressure start to come up again. I would say after in June sometime. That's more likely when it's going to happen. The other thing that's happening right here is for Capricorn, a lot of worry about security and stability. So this is financial institutions as well as ordinary people with Capricorns. Venus and Mars are in the sixth house. And this gives a feeling of breakage or uncontrollable home life. Let's put it that way for a lot of Capricorns. Venus and Mars are in the sixth house, so that'll give some arguments and some illnesses connected with both sweets and sours and burnt food. So be careful about eating those things, and also be careful about losing your temper. K2's in the 10th house. Again, nothing new there. It's been there for months. It'll start to show some sign of giving giving Capricorn more control over its destiny, probably within about 6 months or so, but it'll take a while. Moon is in the 11th house, so it's, again, some anxiety about the future. For Aquarius, we have Saturn's in the first house, so make Aquarius feel very, very strong in terms of technological innovation. It'll be very daring in terms of what it's trying to do in terms of technology. Mars and Venus are in the 5th, so this can give pretty passionate romantic involvements. But in terms of turning these into long-term commitments, it's probably not a good idea because of that Sun, the Lord of the 7th house, being afflicted as it is right now by Rahu. And again, what I would call false confidence. You'll have this feeling like you can control every situation. There's nothing wrong with feeling confident, but it's also a good time to develop some self-awareness about the things you can control and the things you can't control, and especially in relationships. So if you're involved in a long-term relationship, just be aware that there'll be events over the next few months you'll just have to sit out and wait and see how they develop. Okay. K2's in the 9th house, unexpected luck. Moon is in the 10th house. A lot of focus on career and also rivals in career. Now for Pisces, we have finally Jupiter, Mercury, and Rahu and Sun in the 2nd house. It's a really good combination for grabbing money or grabbing financial growth. Again, just make sure to do it ethically. Just make sure to do it with some judgment that you'll be fair to people when you do it. There is a temptation to cheat or over-exaggerate gains from this combination. Venus and Mars are in the 4th house. That's not a bad placement, but it does tend to give some arguments in relationship life. Some arguments over decor in the home as well. But you never thought you'd hear me say decor. And you'll also see some changes. Children will seem to be a little bit downbeat or a little bit pessimistic or a little bit aggressive. Saturn's in the 12th house. Again, watch out for overexpending on things you think you want, but you really don't want. So I'm not encouraging every sign to be cautious in terms of buying things, but most signs I think should be cautious in terms of buying things and also in making fatalistic assumptions over the next few months. I refrain from, for most signs, I would say this for all signs, to be honest with you, I would refrain from major purchases over the next um, 3 to 4 weeks at least. And small purchases, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, like, so, but anything that's, it's like a major investment, like a car or a house or, or even something that's a few $100s, I probably abstain from making purchases uh, of those things for at least until around mid-June, just to get um, just to get Mercury clear of Rahu, and also to get the Sun clear of Rahu. And that's about it for the major signs. So let's look at our map. Okay. And I'm going to start the share and start up again. Okay, so hopefully all these transitions are working. So our astral map, I'm going to try to enlarge it. Oh, great, it worked. Okay. It doesn't always work. Okay, so, all right, so we have a Saturn line running right over Hawaii. So Hawaii can expect some kind of economic distress or pressure, maybe even Alaska and Hawaii, just because of where they're located. And I think it's going to have something to do with Saturn's in Aquarius. Is going to have something to do with technology and also maybe even some kind of water or fire problems. So either volcano or flooding in both parts, in both states. If we go over to so maybe even a blockade over here. We have a Venus and a Mars line, not really close to the United States. The Mars line is close to the United States, so that'll give some disruption. The Venus line is not. So Venus is kind of like out here in the ocean, not really touching anybody. But Venus is in Gemini. That can give a little bit of duplicity in relationship life. It can make a person a little bit unfaithful. So actually, that's probably a good thing. It's not affecting anybody locally. But it's not taking the edge off. Venus can take the edge off, and so can Jupiter if things are getting bad. And both planets are both kind of cranky right now. Mars is approaching the coast of California. I'm not going to predict earthquakes there, but that's possible. It's possible there'll be environmental problems and even maybe some violence up here. That's just possible. Jupiter is running through New Mexico and northwest Mexico itself. And let me just see here. Rahu is, it's a Rahu line running through Texas, Oklahoma, all the way up through North and South Dakota. So people are going to be a little bit nervous, a little bit anxious, and there'll be miscommunication coming out of this part of the world as well. So anxiety about careers, anxiety about life. And I would say a certain amount of government overreach happening in this part of the country, and also in Mexico and Central America. So when I say government overreach, I mean, I'm sounding like like a conservative, and I'm not really. I'm sort of like non. Um, I'm old, so there's a certain bias that comes along with that. But I'm also in New England, and I have a certain left bias as well. So, so what I'm concerned about really is both civil liberty um, and fairness to people um, who are poor or or who don't have advantages from the government. And this combination tends to affect almost all those people in this part of the world. Okay. And that includes both poor people who are trying to come into the country and also people who are, I would say, justifiably um, upset about what they see as being the erosion of America and what they think it stands for. And also, right here, we have a darn Saturn line running through close to Washington, D.C., through roughly through New York State, New Jersey, and but it's really more concentrated down in this region right here. So that's Delaware. And it'll also probably impact New England. So you can expect to see some kind of economic bad news coming out of that part of the area. I know we're trying to hit a debt crisis resolution, or raising the debt level in the United States. That's a big economic issue for us. But it'll also be a big economic issue. There'll also be big economic issues in Santo Domingo and in northern um, South America, down through Colombia, down into Brazil. I'm sorry, down into Venezuela, down into Brazil, down into Colombia, Uruguay, and Paraguay, and all the way down to Argentina. And the only positive thing I can say here for South America is there's a Venus line running right through um, roughly north through roughly this is roughly the area where Rio is, and that particular part of the country will have at least some relatively good news. And as we go over here, we have a Mars line running through um, Iceland. So again, some potential for volcanoes and earthquakes, but I really hesitate to say that. This looks more like land problems or even some sense of violence creeping up on Africa, the west coast of Africa, and creeping up through. I have to go a little closer, and creeping up through England and Scotland and Ireland. So this particular segment over here, this is a Jupiter line. So you're going to see governmental scandals coming up. And as a matter of fact, Portugal, I know, is in trouble. I haven't looked closely enough, but the Portuguese government is in trouble. I know that. And so is um, Northwest Africa. And so to a certain extent is Norway. All throughout Europe, really, Europe is kind of in a bad state. I mean, there are isolated exceptions, certainly, but uh, Europe and the European Union seems to be in a bad state right now. They're under a lot of financial pressure and a lot of pressure from a lot of domestic pressure. So it looks like a particularly difficult time for them over the next 6 months or so. Um, the other part of the world where you'll hear scandals coming up is really over here in Italy, Greece, and all the way up through Finland, okay, and even Eastern, and even Belarus. Uh, the other line, which is a little bit depressing, is this line, which is going close to the Ukraine and into Russia. So there'll be some pessimism. And we have a Venus line running up through here through Oman and Iran and over into central Russia and similar former Soviet socialist republics over here. So that should be a little difficult for them because Venus, at least in that particular sign, does indicate some shifting alliances, some changes of alliances. And finally, we go over here to this combination. A lot of governmental scandals in India and um, Tajikistan and Pakistan and Afghanistan, all the way up through central Russia. And we have a very strong moon line running through Southeast Asia, or what we call Southeast Asia. So Laos and Vietnam and Cambodia are in kind of depressed states or economically depressed states. And it shows up in China as well. So again, it doesn't, and also down in Indonesia. This doesn't mean these governments are collapsing, but they're facing certain crises. Saturn is running up through Borneo, China, close to Korea, and all the way up into Russia, where there's this little cluster up here. But that's really, it's not near that many population areas. The other lines that are coming down here, we have a Venus line coming right down through Australia. So Australia is at least going to get some good news over the next month or so, and so will Japan. So that's actually a good thing. The part of the world which is going to get hit a little bit hard, though, is essentially New Zealand, because it looks like there's some economic issues that are coming up in New Zealand, like right around the corner. So that's it for this week. I pay special attention to Central United States, Europe, and North Africa in particular. Africa itself has, I didn't mention this before, my apologies, but Africa itself has a little bit of a Saturn line running through it. So this is bad for the economy over here in this part of the world. And also not good for suppression. So that's a little bit difficult. And also pay attention to India and the area over to the east of Japan. So a lot of trouble spots in the world. Nothing we can't get out of if we keep our cool. And also it presents good opportunities for us. So that's it for me for this week. It's been a pleasure, as always, talking with you folks. I will do some live feeds pretty soon, and I'll let you know when they come on. But for now, please subscribe. Small step for you, a large step for me. Like and share and comment, please. I appreciate your comments. I do try to answer them. So that's it for me. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. I feel blessed that you are watching me. You are. And share me with your friends. I'm happy to talk with anybody. Okay. All right. Peace. Have a great weekend. And I love you all. Bye, everyone. And good luck.